So in today's episode, we'll be talking about Amazon PPC, Amazon DSP, and Amazon sponsored brand ads with none other than Laura McCaul, who is the co-founder of Sponsored Profit, with a wealth of experience and expertise in creating successful campaigns for the brands she is working with. So first of all, Laura, thank you for coming. And we would love to know a bit more about your background, what you are doing currently in the space.
Yeah, well, look, thank you for having me, Mohammed. Super excited to be here. I've already caught a couple of your episodes, and yeah, so my name is Laura McCaul. I'm a co-founder of Sponsored Profit. We're a UK-based Amazon advertising agency. And me and my business partner kind of fell into the agency world, having been former Amazon sellers ourselves. So, we formed the agency coming up to 5 years ago now, and typically we work with brands who are looking to scale their business with advertising and are looking to essentially break whatever glass ceiling that they're coming up against. So, typically that'll be brands that are maybe generating around 50K a month, then looking to get up to 100K a month, looking up to get to 250 or 250 up to 500. So typically brands will find at some point that what got them where they are won't get them where they're going to. So we really enjoy helping those brands kind of break through that glass ceiling and scale their business to the next level through Amazon advertising.
Awesome. So Laura, have you been selling yourself on Amazon as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'll sort of full disclosure. I'm not in the weeds of managing the campaigns on a day-to-day basis. I do everything sort of outside of that, but at the same time, I would rate my knowledge of PPC as pretty high, certainly well above average. But even myself, we're actually a verified advertising or Amazon ads partner. And so even I take all the certifications just to kind of keep my knowledge up to date. Amazon, as you know, likes to keep us on our toes and change things all the time. And having, firstly being a verified partner, we're really proud to have that status with Amazon and Amazon ads. But, in terms of the wealth of knowledge and experience you can get from taking those certifications and keeping those certifications up to date is immense. So that's been a very positive development, I think, on the Amazon ad side. But yes, my business partner Daryl and also my colleague Emma, who are really in the weeds and who are the top-notch PPC experts in our business.
All right. So Laura, we will be discussing the strategies as well. But first of all, as Dan Pina says, that success leaves clues. I would like to ask you that: have you seen any clues or any common things that for the brands who are successful, who did have a successful launch, especially in the latest year, 2020 or date? Have you seen anything common in them, that why they have been successful and others haven't been? Is it like their product was just better, or the offer they had is better, or they have been using external traffic as well? Well, what is it?
Yeah.
Can you try to on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, what I would say is that, I think, certainly in terms of launching new products and ranking for keywords in general, I think since November 2021 has become especially difficult. And in November 2021, as you know, was when, that very major change in Amazon terms of service took place, which essentially banned the use of rebates, giveaways, and keyword manipulated links. So in terms of what is making for successful launches, certainly post November 2021, definitely there are a couple of things, or two or three things, in fact, that we've noticed. So number one is having and it sounds obvious, but sometimes it's the most obvious things that are the most effective. But number one is having a dedicated advertising budget for that product launch. It's always surprising that sellers once, a few years ago would be happy to give away 500 units or 1,000 units in order to rank a product, but sometimes they're a little stumped when we ask, okay, have you got some money set aside to launch, with PPC? Because essentially, what we're trying to emulate the same thing, only if we're investing in PPC, we're also actually going to sell a product and we're going to get revenue, and it's not going to be, we're not just going to be, it's not going to be a lost cause in terms of financial outlay. So having a dedicated advertising budget is really, really key, because again, a mistake we'll often see is sellers might then siphon some of their ad budget from their existing campaigns, their established products, and campaigns that are already optimized or certainly optimized, and they take away from the stuff that's working, and then again put it on the stuff that we know initially is going to be a little bit bumpy, it's going to have a horrible ACOS, it's going to have all those things that a launch has, and then sort of it kind of brings the overall performance of the account down. So having a dedicated budget is key. Still always very helpful to have a handful of product reviews rather. So, being a member of the Vine program, for example, that is super helpful. But I think as well, starting really, really small, with, just a few select highly relevant search terms to target, but then also placing a coupon on top to, again, just kind of get that conversion up. Because again, if we want to kind of emulate what made, those giveaways or rebates really successful, a large part of that was price, right? It was basically, we're going to make this so price competitive that it's going to be a very compelling offer that's going to get that initial traction and kind of wake the algorithm up. So I think those are probably the three key things that are very important for a successful launch.
Yeah, absolutely. You are so right on that. So now that comes to the next question, because sellers in the beginning phase, you don't know. Let's say it's a product which we are selling for $20, and let's say we do have the Vine reviews as well, but still the ACOS is 70% or 75%. It's primarily because we are not converting that well. But do you think that even at this conversion rate, one should continue to spend on PPC and the product does get ranked at such ACOS as well?
Yeah, it's as you know, I mean, PPC is a long-term play, and knowing, how long do we test PPC with this product to see if it's viable? So a 30% ACOS, or rather, sorry, an 80% ACOS and 30 reviews, that doesn't really tell us much, because, essentially what we need to understand are the key levers of conversion rate. So conversion is really, really important. So how are your ads converting will give us a sense of how viable advertising is. Also, though, what are the costs per clicks? Are you optimizing your bids sufficiently? There's a lot of moving parts that need to be continually tweaked and refined and optimized before we can really start making those informed decisions of, is PPC working or not? And, of course, we're always, I'm an advertising agency, so we're always going to say, we're always going to want to be investing in advertising. We don't necessarily need to, if we've targeted, let's say, top of search, we don't need to necessarily stay there. Certainly not if we're not converting, or if we are converting, we'll wait until we sufficiently influence rank, and then maybe we can see, well, what would happen if we were now in position 2 and not position 1? So now we can kind of optimize for profitability. So we're looking to make our ads more profitable, over time. We don't necessarily just want to say, okay, I think that's it, we'll stop advertising, or it's not working. I think there's a lot of things that we need to test and tweak first, but conversion has always been important, but it's critical now, because it's one of the things as well we can use to kind of bring down those high cost per clicks as well.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're absolutely right in that, but especially nowadays, if you have a CPC of, let's say, $3 and it's a $20 item, even if you are getting 5 clicks to get one order, your ACOS is always going to be on the higher end. So a lot of the challenge that becomes for the brands is to know whether they should continue to invest for the products where they have a high ACOS, or they should not. I mean, it's very it's a bit of a challenge for the people to understand whether this product is going to work in the long run or not.
It is.
That's right.
Yeah, it is. And to that point, so
Yeah.
The upside is we actually have more data now actually than we've had before to kind of make those decisions. So when Amazon made a whole bunch of reporting and additional data available sort of in the back end of last year, what we can do now in terms of conversion is we can actually see how a product is converting against the category average, and we can also see it at the search term level as well. So what we want to do is we can get very, very granular now with identifying, okay, which search terms should we be targeting? Because if we're converting at the search term level, let's say, better than the competition, we're going to have a better chance of ranking. So what's the available sales volume through that search term? What's the average cost per click that we're paying for? And how many sales do we need to make to influence rank? We multiply that by the cost per click. Now we can start getting an understanding of, okay, can we afford this? Does this make sense to keep pushing this search term or not? So to that point, I think we have more data. What it also means, though, is that, and I know this will be an unpopular opinion, but ACOS is an important metric. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the be and end all. If we can push a search term that we convert well on, that has maybe it has a break-even sort of cost per click. If there's sufficient sales volume there, we know we can make that profitable, even if it's maybe at a slightly higher ACOS. So there's it's more of a gray area now, I think, than it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I mean, if it's a search term which we want to rank, generally, how does the bidding strategy look like? Is it like, of course, we have to bid high because we want top of search placement. Is it like just having an up and down bidding strategy, or what is it that you have found more useful?
Again, we tend to look at the conversion of that any given search term first. If we're already converting well and at, let's say, and we're at a below break-even ACOS, so now we've got two things going in our favor. We know we're converting better than the competition, which means we'll stick in terms of ranking, but also, if we still kind of target that break even as a cutoff point, we know if we're below that, we can be a little bit more aggressive with the ACOS to kind of push and influence rank. And that will also play into, in terms of, repeat purchases. If you sell consumable goods and, we know that we're going to get not just one purchase from the click on that ad, maybe we're going to get 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, we know from an ACOS perspective that we can kind of push it and be a little bit more aggressive because we're going to be getting multiple sales. So I think that's important to consider as well.
Yeah. So, Laura, absolutely, you are so right in that. Laura, so people who doesn't know, you talked about that you can check the category conversion rate. So people who doesn't know that, where can they find that metric? Where they can see the conversion for the category. What's the navigation?
So there's a couple of places. So if you want to kind of see, how you're converting, compared to the category, you can find that in brand analytics, and then also in terms of how you're converting at the search term level, you can find that in the search query performance dashboard.
Yeah, awesome. So I think it's something not many people are using, and I love your answer, because right now, because certainly if you're running PPC on low price items, your ACOS is always going to be high, but it doesn't mean that you will not be ranked. If you will continue to invest in it and you have a decent enough conversion rate, you would get the ranks.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, but very possibly. Yeah. And as I said, this is all a good thing that this data is available. Now, Amazon being Amazon, they don't necessarily make it very easy to kind of find that data, and it is all in lots of different places. So as I said, I've already mentioned a couple of places that you can find it. But just to your point, you sort of mentioned profitability, and again, this is sort of this is really, really key, and and obviously it becomes more critical for lower priced items. But again, with cost per clicks rising, and we've seen, just as a frame of reference, across our product portfolio, we've seen the average cost per click go up by about 60% year on year. That's a lot to absorb. So profitability is really, really important as well. So when it comes to the validity of PPC, you need to have healthy profit margins. That's, without those, it can be, PPC can be a bit of a struggle. Not impossible, but it can be a bit of a struggle. And that's just, you know, unfortunately, that's just the reality.
Absolutely. So as you said, as the CPC cost is increasing, and as per stat, there are almost 3,000 sellers registering every day on Amazon, and because new sellers are coming, they are bidding high. The CPC is not going to come down even in the near future. So now it has become even more important to have repeat purchases. So what campaigns can actually help us to bring repeat purchases? Sponsored brand campaign. Can you touch a bit on that also?
Yeah, so I mean, so as I said, getting yourself enrolled in Subscribe and Save is the first thing, and then obviously making use of I think in the EBC or A+ content, particularly if you're doing them, creating the more attractive sort of landing page style, but having that sort of product matrix at the bottom is really helpful. That's more so for cross-selling than repeat purchases. But I think having that, same for sponsored brand, headline ads as well as the storefront as well, are all really great opportunities to cross-sell and have those repeat purchases to drive that brand awareness so people remember to come back to you.
Absolutely. So I just remember that I was talking to Sam Yakhtar. So he is also an example on PPC agency. So he was talking about that sponsored display campaigns are working really well, especially for the supplement brands, because it's bringing repeat purchases. So how's been your experience with sponsored display campaigns?
Yeah, really good point. So something I meant to mention as well. So let's say you're part of Subscribe and Save, using sponsored display or retargeting ads, within the time frame, the window that typically a customer would need to make that purchase. So supplements is a great example. Maybe you sell a jar of 30 tablets or 60 tablets, 90 tablets, whatever, sort of using your retargeting campaigns in that time frame to start retargeting those customers who have made that purchase and that are coming up to that kind of replenishment time is certainly a very sound strategy, and it does work particularly well for supplements. That's a great category for this type of advertising and Subscribe and Save.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Laura, I wanted to have a discussion. I want to have an overview rather than talking about the strategies, because this is something which people find a lot. But I wanted to touch on the overground, that because most of the people struggle. Even myself working with the clients, it's hard to tell them that you need to spend PPC, and even this high ACOS is because of the rising CPC. But it doesn't mean that the product won't get ranked. The product does get ranked if you have a decent enough conversion rate. So Laura, I would like you to touch a bit on your tool as well. You have a very famous tool. What does it do and how is it working?
Yeah. So it's a funny story, really. So as I mentioned at the beginning, both myself and my business partner Daryl Patterson are former sellers, and Daryl always was a whiz when it came to PPC. So he as a seller had used pretty much every tool that was on the market. This is going back sort of a few years, and so when we decided to start the agency, as we were evaluating different softwares, Daryl was just like, do you know what? I think we'll just build our own. I was like, really? I'm like, that sounds difficult. That sounds hard. He's like, no, I think we can do it. And so we built our tool AdManager. We manage and optimize campaigns using bulk files. So we built AdManager to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And the reason we use bulk files is, again, when we want to optimize at scale, it's obviously the most efficient way to do that. But the benefit that we found from building our own tech, and it certainly comes at a cost, we have to invest heavily in it, but the benefit that we found is that it gives us maximum flexibility, yet maximum control. And when I say flexibility, so when the additional data and reporting became available last year, so search term impression share, search query performance, all the metrics we can get in brand analytics, we could upgrade our software to kind of pull all that data in. So now when it comes to we essentially use our tech, our software to, you know, we essentially are using PPC to rank organically. That's essentially what we're using our tool to do. It can pull that data from all those different places so we can identify what we call our high opportunity search terms. So the search terms where we can out-convert, outsell, outrank, and do so profitably. So that's what we essentially use AdManager for. So it's similar. Well, that's our host finder tool. That's one of the features. It's similar to Helium 10, the Cerebro product score, the CPR score. It's sort of similar to that, but it kind of goes one step further because it will identify, you know, those keywords, as I said, that will outsell, that we can outsell and outrank on, as opposed to just let's pick a search term, let's base it on search volume and how many units would we need to sell, you know, at a discounted rate over 8 days to rank. Well, instead we'll use real sales data, not search volume. So that's key difference. But the other thing is that, you know, we'll identify, you know, those high opportunity search terms where we know we can rank with confidence and we know how much it will cost us. So that's one thing our tool does. Probably the other thing our tool does, I mean, it does all the usual stuff like bid optimization and everything. So but the other thing it does is we have something called our misspend prevention method, and that's a culmination of 4 or 5 different techniques to identify unnecessary ad waste that we can reduce, you know, on an ongoing basis without reducing sales. So you know things like keyword duplication, mixed match types. We're big believers in using negative keywords, phrase match negative keywords, so we can kind of eliminate a lot of unnecessary waste right out of the gate. So you sell a blue silicon spatula, well then we'll, you know, use, you know, red, orange, yellow, let's say, as negative phrase keywords. So that misspend prevention method is really, really key as well, because we can, you know, cut waste on average by about 53% in it extra, without losing sales. So those are probably the 2 key things that our tech does that other software won't do.
Awesome. So, Laura, as you know, it's been really awesome talking to you. As you know, we have to keep this podcast short because generally listeners want, you know, short. They prefer shorter episodes. So, thank you so much for coming. Just tell me that if somebody wants to contact you, where can they actually reach you out?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. But otherwise, you know, go to our website, www.sponsoredprofit.com, or you can shoot me an email, laura@sponsoredprofit.com.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for coming. It was really nice having you, and, you know, you shared some really valuable insights.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Mahan.
Okay, bye.